Hi, I'm Ben Coles from Camping with the Coles, and today we have another gear review for you. It's another one from Bluetti. This is a system I've been waiting for over a year for it to come out, and it's finally here. This is the Bluetti 180T Power Station, and this is the Bluetti MultiCooler that is a fridge, freezer, and ice maker. Together, these are a system from Bluetti called Swap Solar. And that's because this power station has two hot swappable batteries. You can take one of the batteries out and put it in the MultiCooler to run the MultiCooler, and you still have a working power station. And it'll run that MultiCooler for up to 3 days. 3 days on a battery. Bluetti sent these to us at no cost so that we could do a review of them. But as always, this is going to be my honest review of them. We're going to start out by having a look at each and checking out the specs. We'll then show you some real-world testing. We'll talk about some shortcomings as I see it. Then we'll talk about who this is for and wrap it up with my final thoughts. I first heard about the Swap Solar system from the Consumer Electronics Show in 2024. It looked like they were going to be coming out right away. I really liked the idea that the cooler had an ice maker in it. We always travel with an ice maker, so having it built into a cooler sounded really like a good idea to us. Then unfortunately there is a delay in Bluetti coming out with the MultiCooler, and then when it did come out, there is another delay for it coming to the Canadian market. But it just came to the Canadian market in June of 2025, and we got it here. Let's have a quick look at the unboxing, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. This is the Bluetti AC180T Power Station. It has two batteries in it. Each battery is 716 watt hours for a total of 1,433.6 watt hours. With both batteries in it, it has 1,800 watts of continuous output and 2,700 watts in powerlifting mode. With just the one battery in it, it has 1,200 watts of continuous output. They advertise that it can be charged from 0 to 80% in 1 hour. In my testing, I did it in 54 minutes, and it was fully charged in 1 hour and 17 minutes. Now let's have a look at the outlets and the charging ports. We'll start at the top left with the DC input. The power cord comes with the unit to charge it with solar or vehicle cigarette lighter. Below that is the DC output, also known as the vehicle cigarette lighter. There are 4 other DC outputs, 2 USB-C 100 watt and 2 USB-A 5 volt 3 amp. Then we have 4 AC outputs that are pure sine waves, so they can handle sensitive electronics. These 3 buttons are the power buttons. The center button turns the power station on and off. The DC button turns on the DC outlets, and the AC button turns on the AC outlets. On the screen, you'll see that it shows the number of batteries that are in it, the DC input and the DC output, the AC input and the AC output. The number in the middle is how full the batteries are, and the blue circle around it just shows that in graphic form. The number below that is the number of hours the battery will last at the current level of output. So let's have a look at the left side. This is the AC input. That's where you plug it in to charge it with a standard household outlet. This is to put a grounding screw in it if you need to ground it. And this is the circuit protector that you can reset. We'll just pull the batteries out now to have a look at them. They each have a power button and 5 lights indicating their level of charge. There's a button to press to bring in this latch to unlock the battery from the power station. These batteries are lithium iron phosphate. They allow for 3,000 charge cycles to still be at 80%. The whole power station with both batteries in it weighs 58.4 pounds. Each battery, called a B70, weighs 18.7 pounds. It's 15.4 inches wide, 11 inches deep, and 15.6 inches tall. The AC180T is ideal to be used as a UPS or an uninterruptible power supply. So if you have an electronic device like a CPAP and you're at an electric campsite, you can plug this into the AC outlet of the trailer, and you can plug your CPAP into this. It has pass-through technology. During the night when you're sleeping using the CPAP, the electricity flows from the grid, from the AC outlet, through the AC180T and into the CPAP. Now, if the power goes out, the power station immediately takes over with a 20 millisecond delay so that there is no interruption in your CPAP and you keep going. Of course, if you don't have electricity, this thing will run your CPAP for probably about 24 hours straight. Now let's have a look at what I've been waiting for all this time. This is the Bluetti MultiCooler. This unit is 28 inches wide, 16.5 inches deep, and 18.7 inches tall. It weighs 53 pounds without the battery in it. With the battery, it's around 70 pounds. It's a 3-in-1, so it's a fridge, a freezer, and an ice maker. That's right, an ice maker. Now that's camping. You just pour water into it, turn on the ice maker, and in about 15 minutes, you'll have 24 ice cubes. Now this is considered a 54-liter cooler, and that's broken down to 40 liters for the main cooler fridge area, 9 liters for the ice maker, and 6 liters for the battery compartment. When you open the lid, you'll see 2 baskets to hold your items, a tall basket and a short basket. There's also a drain plug. Next to the cooler is the ice maker. You open this and you'll see there is a removable basket inside along with an ice scoop that slides into the basket. The ice is formed here and drops into the basket. The lid is removable if for some reason you wanted to remove it. At the front of the unit, you open this door and it stays open, and there's a basket in here that you can use to store the cords or anything else. This is also the battery compartment. So if you're putting the battery in it, you take out the basket. On the left side of the unit, you have DC outputs, USB-C and USB-A to charge electronics like phones. They only work if the battery is installed. Then there's the DC input. This is where you can plug it into an AC outlet, DC outlet, or solar panel. If the battery is installed, it'll charge up the battery. Now let's have a look at the screen. Press and hold the power button for 2 seconds to turn it on. There's a setting button to unlock the screen and to change things like Fahrenheit to Celsius. This is the ice maker button, and this is the self-clean button for the ice maker. This shows the battery life as a graphic and as a percentage. It's currently at 100%, and this shows how long it can run at that current temperature setting. And in this case, that's 70 hours. It's on the max setting, not the eco setting, and this is the current temperature in the cooler. This shows you the Bluetooth is on. What I really love is that you can adjust all these settings with an app on your phone. You download the Bluetti app. It pairs very easily through Bluetooth to the AC180T and the MultiCooler, and you can control everything from the app. It shows the battery percentage left in the battery, hours remaining at that temperature setting, volts being used, the current temperature, the temperature setting, how far along the ice making process is, turning on and off the ice maker, and the size of the ice, either small or large. You can turn the cooler on and off from here too. This app also works for all the Bluetti power stations. Now let's make some ice. Pour between 400 milliliters to a liter of water into the ice maker. Distilled water makes for clear ice cubes and keeps the ice maker cleaner, but you can use regular water if you like. We can do this on the cooler itself or on the app. I'll show you on the app. Open up the app and pick the MultiCooler. Click on Make Ice and choose the size of ice cubes. You can set it to make one batch or continuously make ice until it runs out of water. During the process of ice baking, it will show the percentage and the process it's at. If you look at the cooler, it shows you with a circle graphic how far along in the ice making process it is. When it's done, it drops the ice in the basket and shows on the screen how many cubes were made. I found that it takes about 23 minutes for the first batch and 10 to 13 minutes for each batch after that. You can power this with an AC outlet like on your trailer, a DC outlet like in your car or truck, the battery that fits in right here, or a solar panel that also plugs into the side. Now it only works with the solar panel if the battery's in it. They advertise that it can run up to 3 days on the one battery. I tested it myself and found that I got it to run for 60 hours, so not quite the 72 hours advertised. But then again, it wasn't really a fair test because I ran 5 batches of ice in that, which is over an hour of running ice. Generally, the unit uses about 45 watts of power when it is in the cooling mode. And because it has a thermostat on, it comes on, turns off, comes on, turns off. So periodically it uses 45 watts. When it's using the ice maker, I find it uses around 140 watts continuously. So the ice maker uses up a lot more power than the cooler. So this is like a real refrigerator. It has a compressor in it, and that's what adds the weight to it. But that's also what allows it to be very efficient. My testing, I found it can cool down from about 30 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature I like to have our drinks at, in about 15 minutes. I should mention that it can only do one thing at a time. It's either making ice or it's cooling the main compartment. So when we had this down to 2 degrees Celsius in the main compartment and turned on the ice maker and had the ice maker running for over an hour, the main compartment went from 2 degrees to 9 degrees Celsius. Because like I said, it can't do both at the same time. When it's done making ice, it only took 7 or 8 minutes to get back down to 2 degrees Celsius. And in that test, again, that was not a real fair test because the cooler area was completely empty. Had it been full of items that were at temperature, that would have helped maintain the temperature too. So I don't think it would have gone all the way up to 9 degrees. It might have gone up a degree or two. Both the MultiCooler and the 180T can work from 40 degrees Celsius to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Now let's get into some testing. When the AC180T arrived, the battery was at 54%. It took 35 minutes in power boost mode, bringing it in around 1,453 watts to get to 99%. The last percentage takes a little bit of time because the BMS wants to do what's best for the battery. I charged the AC180T with one battery in it from 0% to 100% in 1 hour and 5 minutes. With 2 batteries, it took 54 minutes to get to 80% and 1 hour and 17 minutes to get to 100%. That's really fast. I did a test to show you the difference between older technology 12-volt coolers that don't have a compressor and a thermostat and the newer technology of this MultiCooler. This is a 58-watt cooler that runs continuously no matter what the outside temperature is. It only works as a cooler, not a freezer. I plugged in the old cooler to the AC180T with 2 batteries, and it said it will run it for 15.7 hours. They ended up running it for 21 hours and 20 minutes. I did the same test with just 1 battery in the AC180T, and it ran it for 10 hours and 44 minutes. I then plugged in the MultiCooler to the AC180T with 2 batteries, and it ran for 72 hours. That's an impressive difference. 21 hours for the old cooler and 72 hours for the MultiCooler. Now clearly it's much more efficient to run the MultiCooler with the battery in it rather than plugging it into a power station. And that's really where it sets itself apart from other coolers in the same class. Other coolers like this either don't come with a battery, they always have to be plugged in, or they come with a much smaller battery that can only run it for a few hours. Where 1 battery in this can run it for 3 days. When you plug your MultiCooler into power, it will also charge the battery that's in it. I found that it took about 6 hours to charge the battery in the MultiCooler, so it is certainly a lot quicker to charge it in the AC180T. Okay, it's 9:45 in the morning. Made my first batch of ice. I'm going to leave this running continuously. It'll probably make 4 or 5 batches, so it'll probably take an hour or so. From what I've seen so far, this really keeps the ice for a long time. So it is a hot one today. It's supposed to be a high of 31. It's 26 right now. With the Humidex, it's supposed to get up to around 40. So we'll see how this thing does with the ice making. Each batch of ice is 24 cubes. It's been about 3 hours. We've just taken a couple scoops of ice out of there for some drinks because it's super hot. And that's what the ice looks like. Ice is doing well. We probably are going to be using a lot of it today. We might have to make some more. It's been 7.5 hours since I made the ice in here. It's 32 degrees Celsius right now. Super humid. I think it's a Humidex of over 40 degrees right now. And let's see how the ice is doing. Very good. Well, the MultiCooler got a really good workout yesterday. It was 33 degrees Celsius. With the Humidex, it was over 40 degrees. At one point, the sun was shining in here, and this was completely covered in sunshine. It was actually kind of hot to touch because of the black exterior on it. And unbeknownst to me, my wife decided to start making ice then. So it actually was making ice, and it was on the third batch of ice when I noticed that it was making ice. And then I checked the cooler temperature and found that it had gotten up to 13 degrees. So I stopped it from making ice because we had plenty of ice. And within 10 minutes, it was back down to 2 degrees, which is what I had it set at. So this thing did a tremendous job in the heat. I can't believe it was actually making ice. So, like I said, it was 33 degrees. The temperature of this thing was much higher than that because the sun beating down on it. It was making ice. 10 minutes, got back down to the proper temperature inside the cooler. So that's amazing. Now for a couple of drawbacks as I see them. And I'm going to be completely honest about this. There are some drawbacks I see to this thing. Number one, when it has the battery in it, the empty cooler weighs in the area of 70 pounds. That's a lot of weight. You fill that up with cans of pop and frozen foods or whatever you're going to fill it up with, you could get to around 100 pounds. On the trip we're on right now, I weighed it to be just about 100, 101 pounds when it's fully loaded. That's a bit of a beast. Luckily, it has rubber wheels on it, and it has a nice handle over here, so you can pick it up and roll it along on the ground. You don't have to carry it everywhere you go. If you're lifting it into the truck, use 2 people, or what I do when I'm doing it myself is I do it like this. I wheel it up to the truck, I remove the 2 baskets with all the food in it, set it on the tailgate, I remove the battery, put it on the tailgate, then it's a much lighter cooler and I can pick it up and put it on the tailgate. I then maneuver it into position and then put all the baskets and the battery back in it. Now on the plus side with this, we normally bring an ice maker with us, and our ice maker weighs 20 pounds. So that's 20 pounds of weight we don't have to bring with us. Now the next drawback is if you're using a battery in the MultiCooler, then you only have 1 battery in the AC180T, and that limits your power output and your battery life. Now ideally, I'd like to keep 1 in the MultiCooler and have 2 in the AC180T. As the MultiCooler battery gets low, I can just swap it out with 1 from the power station. Now the next thing that kind of bothers me is the way to strap it down. Now it's good that it has these metal bars on the side. You can put like a strap in there and strap it down into the truck bed. So that's nice. However, it's not big enough space if you want to use a lock on it. And that's the same thing with the 180T. There's no place to put like a cable lock through it so you can lock these down. If I'm having these sitting outside of my trailer at the campground, I like to have them locked down. I have the AC200L, and that's ideal because the way the handles are in the top, you can put a cable lock through that, and then you can attach to your trailer or attach to the picnic table, and it's secured there. It's not going anywhere. With these units, you can't do it. I also have another cooler that has a handle that comes up. I can put the cable lock through there and attach it to something so it doesn't go away. Now, I suppose I could use it in the big handle here, but I don't think that's going to be very secure. I think when that's fully extended, 1 kick, and that's going to break quite easily. So it's not really a good way of securing it. And while I'm on the topic of the handles, we've already talked about how heavy this thing is. Well, it doesn't have any handles that come out. The handles are just indented into the unit. So basically, you're using your fingertips to pick up all that weight. And it's the same thing with the AC180T. It's just indented in here for a handle. So you're using your fingertips to pick up all that weight. On my AC200L, it has the handles at the top there. You can even grab it with 1 hand and walk along carrying it in 1 hand because you've got really good grip on it. I wish we could have that kind of grip on both of these items. Now, who is this for? I think this is for the RVer that sometimes camps without hookups, but most of the time is plugged in. When you're at a campsite and you're plugged in, you can plug in the MultiCooler and it'll just run. It'll run the cooler, run the ice maker, everything will be great. But every now and then, you camp without hookups. And that's where you bring the both of them, because like I said, it can run this thing with 1 battery in it for 3 days. Then you'll have a way to store your food at a reliable and safe temperature. You'll have cool drinks, and you'll even have ice. And you'll also have a way to power all your electronics. Your phones, watches, cameras, laptops, anything like that. This will take care of that for you. I also see it for the front country tent camper. You roll up in your car, you unload everything, unload your tent. You're going to be able to keep all your food in here at a good, safe, reliable temperature. And again, you can charge up all your electronic devices with the AC180T. Now, the AC180T will run a lot of the high energy devices, such as a hair dryer, a toaster, a kettle, things like that. But when we camp without power, we don't use those things that way. For instance, for making coffee, instead of running a kettle, which could run at like 1600 watts, we just boil water on a stove. Because when you do use those high wattage devices, basically anything with a heating element, and you power with the AC180T, you'll see your power go down pretty quickly. Now you can do that if you want, and then you have to charge it up more frequently. But what I'd suggest when you're camping without hookups is to find alternate ways to do the things that you'd normally do. And also, if it's cold and you need some heat in the trailer, use the furnace, use the propane. It uses a little bit of electricity, but not much compared to running an electric heater. I think this combination of power station and multi-cooler are ideal for today's camper. I put a link in the description below. You can check that for the latest deals and prices. They often have specials going on all the time. And Prime Day is just around the corner. So you'll be able to get the AC180T and the multi-cooler at probably the lowest prices of the year. So now's the time to snatch them up. So that's it for this gear review. We'll see you in the next one, and happy camping.